To have international solidarity, you have to make people understand why an issue that might not touch them directly in whatever place they are in right now, why it is important for them and for their reality in which they live in.
You feel like you are together. Okay, we are here together. And that feeling for me is quite empowering.
So we all are from 4 different places.
Yes.
Get that impression?
So it's very international.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the honors with the first question?
When you say international solidarity, what comes to your mind mostly? Like, is it participating into a protest, or is it like participating into certain communities? Or
On one hand, we are really far from these utopias that we want to live in, but at the same time, we're kind of practicing these utopias. Again, when you said, like, I lost my job, I don't have any money, I don't have a food to eat, and there is a utopia in this small interaction when you can come to like a local anarchist feminist group and you will get food and you will get some money and you will get shelter and housing for at least some time. Things will get fixed, and this is a very utopian situation, but on like a smaller scale.
I lived in Ukraine for quite a few years, and so the war has been very emotionally exhausting. And if somebody from a part of my life that's not at all connected to Ukraine even does a small symbolic thing like putting the flag on their Instagram, it's like a little bit of a boost, it's a little bit of energy.
I think it was kind of successful how over the last decades feminists through social media brought this issue of fighting gender-based violence and just like fighting this normalization of harassment and like discrimination. We, like as women, queer people of like marginalized genders are being treated in the society. So I think through social media there was so many flash mobs like Me Too. And before Me Too there was "Я не боюсь сказать", in English means I am not afraid to tell. It started in Ukraine and it all got really like spread to different parts of the world. In my opinion, it really helped to raise certain awareness and really helped to, you know, grow this muscle of resistance and not tolerating this violence anymore. When I meet people who really are interested or at least like try to get educated on the topic, I see it as solidarity, and it makes me really happy to see that people put some effort to learn something and I don't need to be their only provider of the information.
I mean, you can see it in the questions people ask you, if they are like superficially interested or if they are actually interested and want to understand the situation and maybe also want to understand your position in it.
Maybe we're lacking this kind of being like in touch with groups, movements in different countries and finding the common ground on what we can work with each other like on a daily basis. Western Europeans, they have very strong opinions about our politics. We have to make so much effort to be heard, but they rarely base these opinions on what we have to say. They base these opinions on what other Western Europeans had to say about us.
We just have these groups of leftists and everybody is living in their own world and not really allowing for conversation and discussion and just having their very fixed opinions and values.
Speak in ways that make others want to listen, and to listen in ways that make others want to speak.
I feel like there are still quite a big fragmentation at the moment. There are a lot of privileges within the movements that are not reflected on.
People that have European citizenship, of course, they are way better off in case something happens. Let them take the blame.
I think there are still shared values that we need to mobilize, that is stolen from the left, kind of by far right. They are able to talk to the masses, to the working class, to the people that are in precarious situations, especially like nowadays where we feel all isolated. What is the position through which we were commonly marginalized? Most of us are beaten up by, by the same enemy.
I see a big problem that these right-wing people like Musk, Trump, now Putin, and all the other authoritarian world leaders and groups, they also have a lot of like differences, but they're really well skilled to get together when they need to fight us.
Yeah, maybe it's just much more easy for right-wing people to look beyond these differences in opinions, and like somehow we don't manage to do that because we feel like all topics are so sensitive and important and we want to consider all of them.
But still, I think we should learn how to unite for the one specific purpose, to fight a greater power that is going to affect all of us.
Some of my friends in the United States who were active against police violence, they're probably politically farther to the left than me on plenty of things. And I never personally was affected by police violence, but when they tell me that they are, I go, okay, I think I have a place in this fight. You know, we can talk about our disagreements later. You shouldn't be murdered by the police. So.
In my focus is like this new wave of fascism. Of course it's like white supremacy, of course it's patriarchy, of course it's capitalism and like imperialism. But I think like fascism is really back in fashion now, and I think anti-fascist resistance has to come back to life. Now it's really the time.
I mean, anytime there is an entity, a body that is able to monopolize violence or use violence and get away with it, whether that be a government, law enforcement, I would consider that a common enemy.
And I think in Russia we learned it hard way. When the full-scale invasion in Ukraine started, we really understood that we need to unite. Yeah, we don't like each other and we have a lot of things to talk about, but we will talk about this after we deal with this war situation. It's not that easy to do this, but somehow, for me personally, I felt like I want this, I feel like this is a very strategical and practical, not very comfortable and not, I don't like it, I hate it, but this is what should to do. No.
There's a word that I like, neighbor. We don't have to love each other, but we can still be neighbors, right? Mm-hmm. So we can still create neighborhoods. And that's something that I always try to remind myself and remember when there are those kind of, moments of conflict.
Yeah, I agree.